Welcome back, everyone. In a few videos back, and if you're new to the channel, I had started working on this little folder, which is a collaboration between one of my mentors and I. And he has since retired and had this folder unfinished. And I told him I would finish it out. We'd do a little collaboration. He had a good bit of it done. I went ahead and set the detent and lock. And actually just the detent, it was already locking up. I've got to do some work on the bolsters, and we got to put some handles on it and do all the decorative work and anodizing and quite a bit of work. Some work to the blade, not much. He had a good bit of it done, but got to where he couldn't see anymore. He's up in his upper 80s and decided to retire. And I had the privilege of buying a bunch of his tools from him. And I've shown some of that in the past videos you've seen. But also in another one of those videos I was doing at the time, I was working on some liner locks, and I dropped and broke some mammoth. Now this is fragmented mammoth. It's stabilized, put together, and I dropped it and shattered it and couldn't use it on the project that I was working on. But I've got enough, I think, to come in here and mount on these folders. This is a liner lock, and you can see it's got bolsters on each end, and the mammoth will go in there in between those two bolsters. Now what I'm going to do to help support this mammoth, because it's going to be thin way down to probably about 3/32, the thickness of these bolsters. I don't know if you can see that, but they're pretty thin, even thinner. And I'm going to attempt to do that. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a 20 thousandths piece of G10. It's almost like a razor. And I'm going to epoxy it to the scales, to the mammoth scales, and to strengthen it. And then I will thin them down and start fitting them to the liners. I'll get all that fit up, drilled, what have you. That's pretty much what I'm working on this week. I've got some other projects. I've got to make some Damascus. I've got to cut up the steel first and get all that started, and doing some shop repairs around here. I'm working on my tapping jig. I'm making a new shaft because I've stripped out one of the set screw holes on that, and just kind of a vlog style video, and glad you're here. And we're going to go ahead and get these liners glued onto these pieces of mammoth, and hopefully that'll prevent more breakage. All right, we're going to get some epoxy mixed up here. Not going to take a whole lot. Now the Damascus I've got to make, if I can get to it on this video, is going to be actually for a short sword. And as you know, I don't make a lot of swords because I don't get requests for them. I mean, I'm mostly catered to the outdoorsmen and, collectors of that sort, because, not many people run around using swords. Actually, this is not a sword. It's going to be like a bolo, but it's going to be very decorative. And so I'm going to make some Damascus for it. That's what the customer wants, and we're going to give him what he wants. So I like to use pigment in my epoxy when I've got liners, and I like to match the liner color. It's just something I've always done. It doesn't really matter. I do it. So I've got black G10 liners here, and I've roughed up and prepared these surfaces. That's real nice when you get it everywhere. And I'm going to clamp these together and set them off to the side, let them dry, and I'm going to start working on my part from my tapping jig. Got to finish that up. And there we go. So So while that handle material is drying, I got to make a shaft for my tapping jig, a new shaft, because I did something crazy. I stripped out a thread, and I need a new one anyway because I have bushings in it now. I'm going to do away with the bushings. It's just something I use for tapping liners and frames for my folders. And I don't have a tailstock for this lathe. I've got a follow rest, or I forgot what you call it. Anyway, but you can't use that on short stuff. It's got to be long, where you can set it here, where you can get your tools in here and do your cutting. And this was a rescued lathe from several years ago, and the tailstock was nowhere to be found. Right now, I've already cut some of this shaft down, and I have to move it out because I can't get too far out here. So I have to come in with my cutter, slide the shaft out some where I can get in here and cut until I get it all cut the same. It's about 435 thousandths. Then I'll flip it around and do the other end. So we're going to get started. I'll get a close up here for you too. All right, I think we got it. It's not perfect. I mean, I'm not a machinist. I'm what you call a backyard shade tree hack machinist. I know just enough to get me in trouble, to be dangerous, whatever you want to call it. So I just made this shaft. It's replacing one that I stripped out, but this is just the jig that I use for tapping my liners, for liner locks and frame locks. It's nothing fancy. Some people use a drill and do it that way. I've broke enough taps that I've learned not to do that anymore. So this is how I do it. And it's pretty simple. I've got a broke tap right here, actually. I'm just going to put it in here. I've got a set screw. That's what all that drilling and tapping was. It's just a 256 set screw. And there it is. That'll work for me all day long. That way I've removed the bushings I had in this makeshift jig and got it cut to size. So that's it. Move on to the next project. All right, let's see how our mammoth is looking here. It's been 24 hours, by the way, and looks pretty good. Get them unclamped here, and I'm gonna trim up this excess on the outside, or that way I can do a clean fit up on the frames or the liners, and I will drill the holes, and then we'll trim it up to the liners. Looks pretty good. All right, so I got them trimmed up, and I mean, I barely have enough room. I mean, there's hardly any room for error. So we're gonna try to make it work. You know, it's length is what's getting me here, but there I've got about 1/8 of an inch, maybe, to play with here. What I'm gonna do now is go ahead and punch the holes in here for the alt 80 screws that I'm gonna be putting in the handles, and that way I can mount one side, check everything out, start getting ready to match them to the rear bolster. Front bolster is pretty easy to match. The rear one, not so much. But I've got me some marks here. And I'm just gonna center punch and drill them out. So what I'll do is I'm gonna bolt these inside out, screw them together inside out, and drill through both of them at one time. That way the screws match on each side. I think that'll be the way to go. I'm gonna use some long screws I've got laid out here to do that. Alt 80 screws are so small, man. Very small. Just making sure my holes are gonna match up here. I'm not sure if Mr. Robert, my mentor, Mr. Robert Capdepon, if he did the same thing. We're going to find out right now. It's hard to do this when both holes are threaded. You got to catch it as soon as it comes out of there. It won't match up right, won't pull together right. I think we got it. Got it close enough that I can drill it. And we'll put another one on this other end. It looks like Mr. Robert did exactly what I'm going to do. Drill them at the same time, both sides, which is pretty common practice. At least it is in my shop. All right, so they're together, they match. Drill through these at the same time. That way they'll be pretty well located in the same spot. And we're going to take our needle-sized bit over to the drill press. Now comes the fun part. I got to cut the pockets for those all 80 screws, and I'm using a drill to drill down to a stop. I'm up above about 3/32 with the drill, and then I'm gonna come down with an end mill to the final depth, which will give me a 1/16 off the bottom. And I want to do all of this before I thin these down, because then it gets so fragile and small I can't hold it. And it's going to be tough enough anyway, but we're going to go ahead and see if we can get these done. Now I just let the bit find center, because I've already got tap size holes in it. Now we're going to take the end mill and cut them down to the final depth. All right, that went pretty smoothly. All right, so now we get to try out my repaired tapping jig with the new shaft. Get these tiny holes tapped. I hate tapping all 80. You really need to use plug tap or Foreman tap, thread Foreman taps on titanium, because they tap a lot better, and the threads are pushed in. They're easier to tap, and it's easier to break these regular thread taps on titanium. So you have to be careful. But if you do break one in titanium, you can take and put it in ferric chloride, and it'll eat the broke tap out of that titanium within 2 or 3 hours. I've had them not even take that long. Depends on how much you broke off in there. So I'm just going to get these tapped. I just got my old 80 tap in there, set screw hold it, and my newly made shaft. So we get these done, and we'll screw them on there. This will take me a little bit because I take my time. All right, I just turned the camera off, and I just broke a tap. So I'll take this bolster off of here, go drop it in ferric chloride, but I'm gonna go ahead and tap this other one first. Luckily, I keep 3 or 4 taps. And just like that, we're gonna prove this theory. I've done it many times though. It works good, but I sure hate breaking taps. You need thread Foreman taps for this. All right, let me get this other one changed out. See if we can't get it tapped properly without breaking the tap. They're easy to break. Can't put too much pressure on them. I got 2 more left. Hopefully I can get 2 holes done. But I hardly ever use all 80. Most everything I use is 256. Now I did use a bunch a while back when I made a batch of real small folders. And it's just rare that I make folders that small. Like this size here, they were even smaller than this. And we're set up again. I'll get this one tapped, and then I'll go soak it, put it in ferric chloride. It's a cool little trick. All right, that one flew through there. well, it's a brand new tap and sharp. That's one of the problems too. Good sharp taps don't break as easily. That other one was very, very well used, and it was actually even shortened. So I had used it quite a bit. So let's get to ferric chloride, drop the stuff in it. All right, this is a little container of ferric that I keep just for this kind of stuff. And I know it looks dirty, and that is because it is. I shook it up when I moved it and had some stuff on the bottom, but it's not going to hurt anything. So I don't know if you can see it, but there's the broke tap right in there. And we're just going to take the whole thing, set it in there, and leave it. Come back in a couple hours and check it out. All right, it's been about 2 hours. And let's see what we've got here. If I can find it. All right, you can see it running out of there. There's some of it right there running out. It's not all the way through yet, but it is eating it. It won't be long. I'd say it's going to take a couple more hours. But you can see it eating it. Stick it in there, leave it in there a couple more hours. All right, it's been another couple hours. Let's see what we got. Yeah, I think it's got it now. Oh yeah, I can see clean through it. Ate it right out of there. Should be able to tap it now, but this definitely works. All right, I've got a new tap in here now. Should cut a little better for one. A little faster. It was just about done when the tap broke in there. It was at that point where it breaks the burr right at the end. Yeah, it's got it. Yes, indeed. Now what I'm gonna do is put the handle, the bolster and handle on there and start fitting up the back bolster like this one. I've already got it done. I've got it profiled, it left it proud, but we got real nice fit front and back. I'm gonna get to that point on this side, and then we're gonna contour, cut these scales down to the size of the bolster, thickness. A lot of cutting to do there. All right, that one's fit up. Got them both fit up and screwed on there. I'm pretty pleased with how they turned out. It's not too hard to cut these kind of scales to match bolsters when they're just a straight angle. Now, if they're like keyhole stuff and the curves, whole different ball game, different animal. And you can see one of those knives here in a past video or two where I actually did that, a keyhole style. It's not a keyhole, it's a, double curve like a S. A little different animal. And I have since learned a different technique from a good friend of mine that's just unbelievable. Maybe he'll let me show that in the future, but I'll have to get permission from him. But he saw my video and sent me several videos on exactly how he does it, and it's just awesome, beautiful. But now I've got to come in here and contour these scales, get them to fit down to the width of these bolsters. It's a lot of material to take off there. So they're going to be very thin and hard to hold. And we're going to do that in the next video. We'll finish this thing out. I want to thank my patrons. I want to thank you for watching. We're going to see you on the next one.